Cup Series drivers got another look at the short track package this weekend at Martinsville, and some of the drivers were very opinionated after the race on what we saw. Let's take a listen.
We never would have imagined 34 lap tires staying out, and cars that I just got done lapping 10 laps ago, I can't pass them. As long as we keep having shifting and tires that don't fall off, we're going to keep chasing our tail. Until we get lap time variation, I'm going to keep harping it and keep saying it over and over and over. We're going to have track position racing. Single file, follow the leader, nobody can pass. So I don't know that we're ever going to fix this until we put more horsepower in the cars or build a tire that somehow falls off. We have to try something different because you can't just have follow the leader racing. This is not, man, you want to see passes for the lead, you know, and we're just not really seeing any of that right now. I think it starts with the engines and then it goes to the tires next.
I mean, I guess it was a little better, directionally better. Just 30-something cars out there that run within a tenth and a half, right? Like, I was racing, cars that I didn't think I'd be racing. Cars that in the past you would pass with ease, right? The easy cars, and I couldn't do that. And it's just because there's not enough speed difference in the cars. They're all almost the same, and there's not much fall off. So we need more fall off, and we need a lot more horsepower.
So some critical thoughts from both Denny, Hamlin. Logano played it a little bit more PC, but seems like they're both clamoring about the fact that the field is just so close in speed is one of the biggest things. So thoughts on the short track package and how we saw Martinsville turn out. DJ?
Well, I understand the guy's frustration. I'm not sure if that was a clip from 2023 or 2002 because you could kind of hear the same things that we said back then. I can't disagree. Unrealistic to think that you can build a race car that you can race on half-mile tracks, 1 mile tracks, mile and a half, 2 mile, 2.5 mile tracks that's going to perform, and road courses that's going to perform great at all of these places. But the one thing that the drivers are talking about, and I totally agree, is the tire fall off. You want that as a driver. If you can do that, you're going to have the better drivers and teams. And I'm not just looking to do that, but everyone has to work harder at conserving your tires, and then you can do things. So I understand that, but also Goodyear also understand that Goodyear doesn't want to put a tire out there that may blow out because, they don't need that headache and the possibility of getting someone hurt. So there's a fine line there. Totally understand it. But I'm just going to say this, that until we get rid of shifting at every racetrack with these cars, I'm sorry, you're going to have a lot of this thing. You can make up for mistakes that you make as a driver. I just say no more shifting. Figure out a way that we don't have more shifting. Obviously, more horsepower is going to help that situation. That's down the road. That takes a while to change all of that. But unless we're at Pocono or a road course, no more shifting.
I have to agree with you. I got to do a lot of the sim testing, DJ, leading this week, and felt what shifting does in those next-gen cars. And it's unbelievable how it makes up for a mistake or, corrects any sort of overspeeding on the entry. You just downshift and drive off the corner. And I think, last year, the thought process, and when we've had high downforce packages at Martinsville was, hey, aero actually matters even though the mid-corner speed is 50 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour, right? Well, we changed the downforce situation with these cars, didn't see a massive effect. So now you've removed that variable, right? Well, now the drivers, of course, are harping on the horsepower situation because, as you said, DJ, they want more fall off. And we know that if you put more horsepower in these cars, it puts more load through the rear tires. It allows you as a driver to either make mistakes or overdo it with the rear tires, that sort of thing, spin the rears, and that creates some of that fall off that you're looking for, right? Now, is it the end all be all? I don't know. I agree with you. If you add 1,000 horsepower to these cars, but you're still shifting, I don't know if it changes everything, where they have a larger fall off, but everyone runs the same speed, then that's an issue, right? So this is a really multifaceted sort of, I think, discussion in terms of how you tackle trying to make these cars have more lap time variability, as Denny Hamlin alludes to, and he talked a lot about on his podcast in terms of 10 years ago when you had a larger separation of the field because everyone built their own cars differently, and so you had differences in speed, and so that allowed passing. But now you want to have fall off because we think that creates the differences in speed, right? But how you tackle that, and whether it's through horsepower getting rid of the shifting. We tried downforce. That hasn't worked. So this is a very interesting conundrum. And the last thing I'll talk about is you have a bigger tire than a stock car's had in the past. And if you look at the Xfinity race, our races looked very similar to what you've seen in the past because it's the stock car we knew for 20 years, right, DJ? It's what you guys drove in 2002 in a lot of respects. I think that you can't put aside that you're on a far bigger tire with less horsepower. And those two things combined, to me, are going to be a really hard puzzle to work out in terms of making tire wear happen unless there's some large changes. So I understand the driver's frustration because if you're in a race where you can't pass, there's nothing more frustrating, nothing that irks you more. I was in a truck race a couple years ago with the Ilmor motor when there was no fall off, and I think I ran in the same position for 182 laps. And we never changed tires. It was one of the most frustrating days I've ever been a part of. I understand that, but how we tackle this problem is going to go on till we find that variable that makes the big switch in how these cars drive.
Well, it sounds like there's some agreement on A, the cars are just so close in terms of the speeds, and then B, maybe looking at tire fall off and the type of tire that's brought to the track. But some of the things I was hearing in post race, and Denny had mentioned it too, was the fact that, we saw Ryan Preece have a dominant car, and if it were not for the speeding penalty, he probably could have won that race. Or the fact that strategy came into play with guys that stayed out on a loud green flag run ultimately got a caution, or the call for a 2-tire. So despite the fact that maybe the car and the tire isn't quite where we want it package-wise for the short tracks, you still have to put together a full race. You can't make mistakes, and there's still strategy. So do you feel like the complaints about maybe the package are overshadowing the fact that we still had a lot of great strategy that needed to be called, and as a driver, you can't make mistakes?
Yeah, there's no doubt that, this has been NASCAR racing for a long time. And that's not going to change. But you're exactly right, Kim, that there was still a lot to it. And you just have to figure out, every football game, every basketball game, every baseball game, not going to be the same. You're going to have differing strategies and things that you have to do to try to win, no matter what sport or competition that you're in. So try to figure out the best way to do this. Yeah, I understand the drivers are going to complain, especially the ones that haven't won and that are used to winning. So, their voices are going to be heard because they're going to talk more about this. But it's not like the racing was awful. It's just not what some drivers want.
And DJ, to your point, I think that's one thing you got to remember is when you listen to Denny Hamlin talk about Martinsville, right? A guy who's been so successful there, who feels like he could take a 10th place car and probably make it a winning car at Martinsville. If he's having trouble driving through the field, obviously that's where you're going to get frustration. Similar to Joe Logano talking about cars who used to be able to pass easily coming through the field. He couldn't get that done. And so you said it. We talk about packages and we talk about fall off and all these things all the time. But definitely, you always have to think about who you're listening to, right? When you say who's talking about, hey, I can't pass. Well, because you used to pass 10 cars in a run. Now you can't. Got it. Okay, everyone else maybe got more competitive. I don't know. But I think that's something always to listen to. But as a driver, I'm just going to agree with all of them. Put 1,000 horsepower in it, and then we can remove that variable too. So, that might just solve everything.
Hi, I'm Parker Kligerman. For more access like this from Pit Road, be sure to click and subscribe to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube channel.